Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. When you find this video, I say hello and I wish you a happy everything. Linda here. I'm back. I'm still hazy, but I'm kind of going with it because it's going with the theme of the week. There's a lot of questions around it. And the readings, these types of readings are general in nature, so they can kind of mean different things to different people. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer one way of interpreting these cards and using them for your own best use. And it may resonate, it may not. But at least we start somewhere, right? That's how we bloom where we're planted. So I wrote down the cards in my little journal because they're prompts for me. So basically what I'm going to do is tell you how I'm interpreting these cards for myself this week and how I'm using them for my benefit. And again, take what you like, discard the rest, and maybe this will help to, maybe it'll just help. So the theme of the week is compassion first and foremost. And so in whatever ways you can nurture yourself this entire week, every single day, if you can have that be the underpinning and the foundation of your week, to be compassionate of yourself first and foremost, you'll be doing yourself and the world around you a favor. And to be compassionate means to be loving, kind to yourself, to all the parts of yourself. And that's basically what this whole reading was about, shit happens, shit comes up, and it can be seen as positive or negative. And certainly what we put into it is what we get out of it. And if you're being kind to yourself, you're also being forgiving to yourself. And being forgiving of yourself means there's things to let go of. And I'm speaking from my own place to say forgiveness can be hard. Letting go can be hard. Surrendering to what is, loving what is, radical acceptance, There's books with these very titles, loving what is, radical acceptance. So if you want to delve deeper in that, you can go find those books and read all about them, and you and I can have a lot of conversations about them because they're good and they're chock full of good things to say. And the purpose of doing this is to reach new edges of yourself. Because quite honestly, there's parts of yourself that you probably love, and there's parts of yourself that you probably don't like, and there's parts of yourself that you wish you didn't have to have, right? And what I'm trying to say is, if you have compassion for all that is in you first and foremost, then it's easier to have compassion for the world around you, and forgiveness for the world around you, and to be able to let go. These are necessary skills to have, and we're not really taught how to do them. And I'm the quality of life chick. That's my thing. It's one of my things. And it seems to be important to help give tools in the toolkit on ways to do these things, because they will elevate quality of life. So the underpinning foundation of this week ahead, or for whenever you find this reading, is to be kind to yourself. Compassion means loving kindness. And my Buddhist friend would say lovingly detached. And that's not an understood term in our culture, to be lovingly detached. If we say we're being detached from something, it's like we're removing ourselves from it, or we're being dissociated from it, and that's not what that is. That's not what what she's talking about. To be lovingly detached means as I understand it, it's about being kind, loving kindness to self, loving kindness to others, not being attached to outcome, not being attached to the way somebody does something. It doesn't have to be your way, it doesn't have to be this way or that way. To be detached from how things are done, that in and of itself might be just what needs to be looked at and kind of worked on and investigated and researched inside oneself. I'll use yoga. Yoga is a physical exercise, but yoga is a practice for the mind. And to do yoga well means that you know the limits of where you're going to push yourself to, and you're not going to overdo it. And you're not also going to be focused on the outcome. It's not about crossing a finish line. Same way with meditation. People talk about how, the realizations and the things that come to you when you're on the mat, on the meditation cushion, you take those with you when you're off the mat, when you're off the cushion. And what that means is, how many people, this is a very common, when, they talk about this a lot in church. I was raised Christian, so it was like people do, they go to church and they put their best self in their best clothes and they act a certain way, and then when they leave, they're like, not fun people to be around, or they're not kind, so the things that you learn and the things that you can be when you're feeling your best self, when things are going right, when things are like, oh, that was great. We need to practice a bit more of retaining those levels of standards and operations and vibrations when things are not so good. So that's the idea of compassion. That's the idea of being lovingly detached. And, we're limited by not only the words that we speak, but the filters that we have. And the cards that were coming out, particularly, what day was it? Tuesday, was speaking about, and even Monday, like all these cards were talking about, this play of the limitations. We're limited, and yet we're expansive. We are a part of the great mystery, and yet we have deep knowing. Life is unfair, and yet we can see in ways in which it can be just. Buddhists talk about right action, right speech, and it's talking from that elevated place of, kind of holding standards and trying to operate from those place of standards. Every workplace has standard operating procedures. Well, they should if they don't. A lot of places now don't, which blows me away. Standard operating procedures, meaning we have a certain way of how we're going to operate. And these are our policies, these are our ways of being. These are the things that we place high value and importance on. And then we have the procedures to This is how we're going to maintain those high standards, the policies. This is how we're going to maintain them. And when they're deviated, this is how we're going to try to correct them so that we can continue this high efficiency, this high standards, and not have the duplication that we see when there's a company or a business or organization that doesn't have standards, that doesn't, when there's not standardization, there's often duplication. And so that's when we're on that, hamster wheel of like, oh my God. So, when I go through the days of the week here, I'm going to suggest to you the ways that I'm going to be looking at what came out of those themes for each day, with a cue for something that you can do if you so desire. So today, Nurturing Southwest speaks to me of what am I nurturing, and to have full awareness around it. We all have itty-bitty shitty committees in our head. We have, what do they say, 10,000 thoughts a day? But it's the thoughts that have the hook of some emotion that keeps drawing us back there. So the point of meditation, the point of reflection is to look at those thoughts, because that's what we kind of put our focus on. And thoughts become things. So what do you want more of? Do you want more of pain and suffering? Then notice how you might be thinking about how life is sucking right now, and all the ways that life is sucking right now. And a simple way to transform that is to have a gratitude practice. So what are you nurturing? I'm nurturing gratitude. I'm nurturing what's right, what's working well for me in this moment. That's what Power Day is. Power Day in and of itself is the day of power. So you can set the whole day to be, everything you want it to be, if you have the freedom to do that, And if you don't have the freedom and the opportunity to make the whole day all about nurturing everything that you love and making the day shine for yourself, since it's a day off. Maybe it's not a day off, but maybe you can take a morning an hour in the morning or an hour in the evening and really kind of steep yourself into a pool of all the things that you love, like have a wonderful bath, have a wonderful foot soak, have something that's like, I'm going to really just take good care of myself. And then I'm going to see if the day feels a little bit better for me because I've been paying such nice attention, such loving and caring, nurturing attention to myself. I'm going to start the week out that way. That's what's so lovely about pulling that card for nurturing. Southwest. Nurturing what is, nurturing the emotions, nurturing the childlike qualities in the self. So for inspiration, for Monday, I'm going to take the Eyes of Mystery card that came up, and I'm going to use it as a prompt for meditation. What is deeply mysterious in me or in the world? Or what may seem mysterious, but what do I have a deep knowing of? And I don't know what that is, so maybe tomorrow, when it is Monday, I'll tell you what I came up with. On Tuesday, Great Smoking Mirror was talking about reflecting back, having things mirrored back, a day of action. And for me, that felt like, again, holding the standards up. And this is the way that I want to experience my life if I can, If I could point my boat in the direction of my dreams and goals, it would look like I'm being kind and loving to myself, and people around me are going to be mirroring that back to me. So how might I, in my day of action, be a little kinder, a little more loving, a little more gracious, a little more like maybe I'll expand my listening ears a little bit more. I try to understand things from a different perspective, because this card talked about, to me, it talked about those filters, where I see things the way that I see things, but that doesn't mean it's the only way to see something, and it doesn't mean that it's the we aren't our thoughts, we aren't our emotions only. Those are guideposts to give us little I always say, this is like a spiritual scavenger hunt, and we're given the little clues to investigate further, to try something on for size, to see how it fits and feels. That's the same. You do that with your clothes, with your shoes. Do that with a meditation practice. Do that with a new yoga pose. Do that with, we have stretch in our in the cards this week too. So we're trying to reach new edges of ourselves for the purpose of being a little happier in this world. So Tuesday, because it's day of action, because the card is talking about having things mirrored back, I'm taking that to mean I'm going to take extra care on that day to hold that intention of compassion, being compassionate to self, and act from a place of compassion to the world around me, and then wait to see what gets mirrored back. It's good information. Wednesday, day of communication, day of justice, which is also strength. The number 8 in tarot is talking about, struggles, and why communication is so important. How we communicate what we want is important. And what I see and notice in myself and others is that sometimes we don't really know what we want. We know we want to be happy, but what does that actually mean? What does that really look like, feel like, taste like, sound like? What is, if I were to touch it, what is it? What would it be, We have to explore those things so that we can get down to the bottom of what it is we're looking for. So that's a prompt day, possibly for a journal, for meditation, justice, the idea that life is unfair, and yet there is justice that happens in the world. So maybe it's a point of reflection on how can I, with the idea, the overarching theme of compassion, how can I be stronger in my own state of being? How can I be more compassionate in my communication? And again, just kind of see what happens when I act and do and think and be from that place. Jupiter Day is about feeling safe. So again, point of investigation, prompts for meditation, prompts for journaling. What ways do I feel safe in my world? In what ways do I not feel safe? Is there anything that I could do about it other than to just notice it? That can be a very hard thing to do when we realize maybe there's nothing at this time that I can do. We feel helpless about something. How can you still hold the place of strength around that? How can you still hold the place of justice and loving kindness and nurturing of self around these topics of feeling safe or unsafe, of justice or injustice? Friday can be a prompt for journaling, this idea of stretching. Stretching to me means reaching a new edge of myself. How do we grow? We grow, just take school. We learn new lessons. It's awkward, it's uncomfortable when we are faced with something we don't know. You're learning a new task, maybe it's a new software program, maybe it's a new subject in school. And, it's like, "Ugh, I don't know this, And there's sometimes an inclination to just say, you know what, I'm going to avoid that. Or I'm not going to do it. Or I don't want to take this. But when we lean into the idea of stretching ourselves, we can learn something new, and maybe we can grow from there. Maybe it can bring about some positive change for our life experience, our work experience, our relationship experience. So because Friday is a day of family, is a day of love, a day of connection, how might we want to stretch on that day, particularly around our relationships? How might I want to stretch myself? Not in any way that would make me feel unsafe, but in a way that would help me to learn and grow, and maybe to raise a standard for myself, or bring me to that elevated standard that I wish to see and be. In the gaming world, they talk about leveling up. It's leveling up. That's what we're doing. And then Saturday, reflecting on freedom. In what ways do I feel very free? In what ways do I feel like I could, improve a bit? Because this week had so much about masculine, feminine, light, dark, shadowy bits and lightness, it seems like these are going to be prompts about, well, let me think about what is the really awesome qualities of freedom that I feel, and maybe I'm going to check into what doesn't feel so free for me right now. Okay, is that hopefully that is giving a bit more insight into how to work these cards of the week as they come. And let me know how that might work for you, and let me know what this sort of pings in you for what you want to do for yourself, if anything, in these themes, in these prompts, in these days. And I look forward to hearing and knowing more.